Once again, welcome back to NASSCOM SME Confluence 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we kickstart our next interesting session. It is going to be on empowering businesses with the power of AI. May I please welcome on stage our moderator, Mr. Maulik Bhansali, CEO, Netweb Software. Can we have a round of applause to welcome, sir? Come on, let's have our energy high. We're just halfway through the day now. I welcome our speaker, Mr. Abhinav Johri, partner EY India. A round of applause for gentlemen. Come on, everyone.
So, thank you so much, friends, for being back in here after the break. And here with me, I have Abhinav Johri of E&Y. Abhinav leads, he's a partner with E&Y, and he leads cloud and digital initiatives, and of course, digital transformations and AI as well. He works along with NASSCOM. He leads a few wonderful initiatives with us at NASSCOM, and also kind of coming up with NASSCOM AI report as well, right? And he's working with NASSCOM team on that side as well. So he's he's going to be able to share wonderful insights with us today in terms of how the tech industry is looking like and how AI is an opportunity for us as tech SMEs as well. You know, I earlier heard from few earlier speakers of ours and friends and colleagues of ours, and few, Sriram, for example, mentioned right at the top as we started, that there are going to be businesses which are going to be leveraging and using AI and offering AI services, and the rest will not be existing. Yeah. But then, if you think about it, and if I look at it, Abhinav, it's like, from the business standpoint, gone are the days when we used to kind of generate wealth, perfecting the known things. We are in the era when wealth is going to get generated or is getting already generated by seizing the unknown. Yeah. And maybe imperfectly too, but seizing the unknown. Now, how do we map that unknown to something where we can get started? Yeah. I think a lot of businesses of ours, tech SMEs of ours, are in that zone in terms of figuring out how the AI landscape is looking like, where the opportunities are. Yeah. And how do we even get started? So would like to hear from you, Abhinav, and share some good examples and sharing some nuances in terms of how do we even get started there.
Absolutely, Maulik. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, NASSCOM, for having me here. It so happens with technology that often we find ourselves at the crossroads after a few years again and again. This kind of questions we faced when everybody got over enthusiastic about digital, and they were just trying to figure out what is it all about. And we took about 5-6 years to even agree upon a definition of what digital really means. And by the time we could have figured digital, perhaps the cloud was on everybody's mind, and then we tried combining both two and say, hey, if you want to be digital, go on the cloud. And by the time the ML and the ops and the ML ops became a reality, now we have an AI. I think it's a dichotomy of the technology evolution that the production of technology has always been ahead of the adoption of technology. That's how it has always worked. From a very pragmatic perspective, frankly, I may sound preachy, but then if you really look around in the market, irrespective of the market segment, be it SMEs or be it enterprises or be it legacy organizations, what really has happened, and this is frankly basis what we are hearing from many of our clients or many of our, so to say, larger organizations whom we partner with, that one thing is common. Their ability to realize a use case, be it for their own benefit, which is more around cost savings, or be it around market, which is revenue generating, their ability to get to those use cases has become far more better. Okay. What does it mean? It means that if I just go 5, 6 years back, even just 6 months back, frankly speaking, there's a lot of grunt work which needed to be done in order to get to a realized use case. Perhaps today that engineering has become a black box, is being wrapped up, being presented to you in a more consumable format, and therefore the ability of anybody to everybody is far higher than what it was 5, 6 years ago. And speaking of SMEs, Maulik, frankly, I have huge respect for this market segment because it's not easy to operate. It's really difficult market to operate. But I think this is the point where what larger organizations could have afforded in terms of the investments to buy the heavy technology, this is the point where perhaps money may not may become an entry barrier. So it's a very pivotal time for sure. Yeah.
So it's certainly a tailwind which we all should possibly take.
I think so. I think so.
Of?
Yes. Besides some of the practical challenges, which is around infrastructure, we can talk a little bit more about that. But I have a huge faith in the way, especially the Indian IT think tank has been thinking about what do they do with the, for example, sovereign cloud. So we haven't have a data center which can afford high-class GPUs besides 1 or 2. We are still 600 megawatts DC capacity in the country. US is 14,000, so we are way long to go. But if we are able to plug the gap on the infra side, rest everything is pretty consumable. And I think that's what the tailwind. If not now, then when?
So that brings up to the following question, where how the market demands are evolving, right? And how wide these opportunities are.
Yeah.
And of course, going by the adoption and therefore where these opportunities are.
Perfect. May I just ask for the one anchor slide I requested for, if you can please put it up.
Yeah.
What, Murphy's Law? Yeah, it's there. All right. So, but I think this is a good anchor slide while we speak to the point.
Yeah.
You know, some of the opportunities, Maulik, you spoke about.
Yeah.
What we clearly see that all the front office business conversation, which is around sales and marketing, and all the especially back office topics such as IT and IT support, we see a lot being done with the advent of AI. And I think from a service provider point of view, let me talk about some of the SMEs which we witness working back with them. If they were to think about their service portfolio, how would the service portfolio would look like in the next 6 or 7 months? One of the things which will really make a crucial difference as a differentiator is in presence of an asset. So if you are able to disrupt the service delivery model through an asset, I think that's going to be a game changer. And let me just clarify what I meant by asset. We see 2 categories of service delivery assets in the market. One category is about AI-infused assets, and other is the AI-led assets. Now, AI-led assets is clearly something which is native AI, meaning you are built out of the pure AI algos. But AI-infused is where you have an existing product, but now you are upgrading it to include some of the AI capabilities, which most of the OEMs are doing. Yeah? What we notice is that in the SME segment, especially from the service provider standpoint, so we went on a different slide, by the way. We just need to go back.
Can we go back?
Okay. So from a SME standpoint, if there is a focus upon the asset build-outs, that asset is clearly going to be one of the revenue generating. Thank you. One of the revenue generating element from the market perspective. I think that's one of the clear trend what we see. Some of the areas where one can anticipate to build assets from service delivery are being listed. But the one which are very, very prominent is sales and marketing and IT and support services. That's something which we clearly see as the biggest market in coming next 2 years. Some of the tail segments where we anticipate SMEs to really push a lot in the market is around compliance.
Okay.
Yeah. Reason being, there's a lot of ambiguity while the DPDP is out there, but there's a lot of ambiguity around, hey, how do I treat the subtle matters which are contractual in nature? And if I'm able to put some intelligence out there so that my ability to respond to a watchdog or to an authority like SEBI, for example, Indian market, is quite faster. And this market has been quite being covered by the biggies, who operate in a GRC, governance, risk and compliance software. But we see quite disruptive solutions, especially coming from the mid-market segment, who are now creating something called as vertical LLMs. So LLMs we have all heard about, but vertical LLMs is the next game. So as I mentioned in my previous conversation, that our ability to get to the technology has become much more faster. So perhaps you may not need an army of developers and modelers now, but what you definitely need is the army of people who can curate more business use cases. And that's what will shift most of the companies from stock LLMs to vertical LLMs. And vertical LLMs will now become the new line of business for most of the mid-market companies. That's where the revenue, that's where the demand is.
So this is fantastic. And I think sharing one example which I recently came across, where someone has actually, small medium business has developed a solution which does AI-driven compliance management, especially when you are deploying solutions on cloud. So for example, if it's a healthcare solution, how is it HIPAA compliant, for example?
That's right.
Or for example, how do you have OS taken care when you are deploying specific solutions and from the security angle? So I think a lot of, you absolutely pointed out, these are very specific areas and niche possibly where we can develop our capabilities and I think come up with relevant business solutions. So what are some of the verticals which, according to you, Abhinav, where we can look at and where the opportunities are, and how these opportunities are in terms of adoption and therefore the spend and therefore the opportunities for us to be part of it?
Okay, sure, that's a great question. And I see we are still figuring it out. So you just have to swap the display if you can. Otherwise, don't sweat it out, it's fine, I can talk about it. From Maulik, from the sector perspective. Sir, I think you can leave it. Sir, you can leave it, that's okay. That's fine. That's fine, just forget it, that's okay. Don't worry. Sorry about this distraction. So coming back to your question from the sector perspective, I wish we could have shown this, but I'll ensure this gets to everybody. This is very important to understand that, and maybe let me start by some stats, because that's what consultants are best at. See, if you see this year particularly, it's going to be a very tough year for most of the big companies from the revenue perspective. And if you just look at their earnings call or some of the balance sheets of past few years, we will see that the most contributing sectors for advanced and emerging technologies has always been BFSI, tech, media, telecom, and a part of, we may say life sciences. What you will realize that this year, very interesting, is the first time in the history of the ITES as a service segment, and why I'm saying that, I'll come to a point in a moment, that these are the sectors which have degrown. And the sectors which have grown are surprisingly is new energy, renewable energies, life sciences, manufacturing, retail, and those were the laggards in technology. So what does it tell us? It tells us that even the larger enterprises who build their businesses at the back of the most advanced adopters of technology are actually not the ones who are making a lot of progress. So the sectors which are making a lot of progress are the sectors who have always been shy from investing big in the tech, because for them, investment in tech has always been a cost, not necessarily as a business growth driver. So therefore, as I mentioned, the ability for those who could not have afforded big army of people to do something in tech has now been shrunk. So from a sector perspective, we clearly see that health, and then NBFCs within the country, especially India as a subcontinent, retail, and then very interestingly speaking, government. I'm not sure how many of would you be following that, but there are some very phenomenal initiatives which have been done by Government of India, especially in Ministry of Tourism, on Bhashini. And this is a play where we see that in these three sectors, the clients or the organizations do not want to engage with the large organizations because their ability to respond to the needs is very slow. I mean, just a week before we were talking about, for example, GitHub Copilot. I'm sure many would have heard.
Yeah.
As of 28 hours before, we have Devon. I don't know how many of you heard about Devon. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing. You sleep and you wake up next morning, you have something else coming up, and you know what to do with it. So this is where we see a lot of mid-market SMEs, entrepreneurs, organizations very deeply engaging on a particular use case.
Got it.
So renewables, new energy, retail, NBFCs are the three top sectors which we believe are going to be very prominent in terms of the market capturing.
Okay.
And from a solution perspective, some of the horizontals which can cater to front office, back office problem statements would be a better idea.
So while all these things are evolving, and I think every day we have something new coming up, right? How do you really focus on where you should get started? That's one.
Yeah.
And to be able to build that team together is very, very essential.
Yeah.
So anything that you can share on that?
Well, this is very close to heart. Reason being, it's a double whammy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is no different for anybody who has big business or smaller businesses. Talent is going to be a challenge for next 5 years as we see it, for two reasons. Because the production of skilled workforce in our country, fortunately, is still catching up upon the conversations in the tech which we were doing perhaps 5 years ago. It is on to the providers of technology, for example, the large cloud service providers, to put more onto reskilling of the talent which has already been passed out, to make it available and useful for the market. So, but this is a very long game. I think we will see next 5 years as a problem. So what do we do? Because work cannot stop. So one of few of these strategies which I see organizations who are very seriously pursuing the idea of AI is that find out, we see approximately 2 to 3% of the total employee base, and we can calibrate it depending upon what the employee base we have. 2 to 3% of the employee base being replaced by core scientists. And these scientists or these scientist category of employees are a mix of people coming from academia. So I'm particularly referring to an alliance and collaboration with the academics, so that you have an outreach to the recent research, and then plus some of the reskilled developers and solution architects. It's as brass tacks as it can get. But that is the core skill set. We believe, and we hear it from many of our chief exec clients. This is what they want to put up as a core team. Now, this core team, their day-to-day job is only to capture and develop. So an example of it is as follows. Sometime back, we were talking about RAG. RAG architecture for some of the Gen AI topics. Now, not many people, quite honestly, they do understand how do we use knowledge graph with RAG. It's a very particular skill set. Now, so the innovation group or innovation focus within an organization can help you to at least sense the trends which are at the boundary before they become mainstream. I think I would definitely recommend that a good amount of time needs to be invested in being aware about what's on the boundary, and then convert that into your pipeline. There could be multiple ways of doing it. In fact, this is the time where I would really admire the way investment banks work. They have large pool of ideas and they portfolio it, and then they see what's merit and what's demerit. So likewise, these trends need to be filtered, and this needs to be mapped back to your service offerings. Service offerings necessarily have to have an infusion of those trends either in the form of capability or in the form of an asset. That's the only two way of doing it. And then the core group which comes out as 2 to 3%, those become the owner of these capability, and rest of the people follow. Because you won't be able to scale the entire organization in a daytime.
Absolutely, and I think that makes sense, especially when we talk about how do you even think of a POC, for example. And then POC is one thing, but adoption of that by your client or customer is another thing, right? So where do you see the proof of value? And how do you bridge that?
Best part, the way consultants do, we always do something at the back of our clients. But then, on a very serious note, quite honestly, a lot of POCs which are happening in and around us, serious POCs in the area of AI, Gen AI, they are not funded.
Okay.
That's the truth. They are not funded, which means that somebody has to sponsor it. So if, and this goes back to the thinking that what does my strategy even looks like for next 5 years? So if my 5 years of a business plan tells me that there's a part of my revenue which is going to be coming from emerging technologies, then that becomes my capital investment today. And then there's a balance sheet treatment to it.
Right.
So most of the POCs, what even we do, and we see SMEs doing it, is coming very consciously from their profits, and that goes on to become a scaled asset later. And I must share with you, Maulik, that some of the recent success stories which we have seen within startups or SMEs in the area of products have always taken birth at a client place.
Right.
You know, because it's a use case, you have a credential being developed, you will put in money, but in 3 months you'll get somewhere.
Right.
And you have a reference. That's the easiest way to get down to a POC to a real case.
Fantastic. I think it kind of gels very well with the earlier session that we had in terms of, account management, how possibly we can bring in value and how, we can leverage that relationship with the customer and build or co-create along with them.
Because the real money is not going to come in any sooner.
Sure.
People are very skeptical because everybody has a point of view on what AI can do. A lot is being told, a lot is being made available. So there's a skepticism. Only folks who are holding on to a use case, which is, I must say once again, for the benefit of everybody, that use case either has to be a cost-saving use case or a revenue-generating use case. In between, nothing is being entertained.
Got it. Fantastic. This is great. And I see we don't have much time left, or possibly we don't have any time left. But any questions? Quick 1 or 2 questions we can take? Yeah, please be very brief so we can have, if possible, someone else also asking the question. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Ganesh here. As Sriram given the keynote, if you're not in a AI space, then you will be out of business, right? But when you are approaching the client, our enterprise client, all this stuff, right? They want to do in AI, but they don't want to do the investment because of the GPU cost and all this kind of thing. So how are you handling the enterprise client? So that is a question number 1. And now the Gemini comes in place, so you don't need a high-end GPU and all. We can manage it. But the hesitation for the regulated client, like a banking or insurance, they hesitated to go to the open tools, like Gemini kind of things. How are you managing that kind of stuff also?
Okay, so audio wasn't too clear for me, but I'll try and just paraphrase it. So the part 1 of the question is that how do we make enterprise work along with us in the area of AI? And the second is that how do we deal with the open tools or open source capabilities? Okay, got it. Thank you. So a quick one, and Maulik, please feel free to.
Sure. I think we will end after this. Of this question.
So the part 1, enterprise. I was just making a mention of it that enterprises won't make an investment because they have a lot of legacy to deal with. And if I were to think about our top 5 brands within the country only, you will see that a lot of them have been perennially struggling with getting the data right. You know, with scale comes the problem at scale as well. So aspirationally, everybody wants to do AI, but in reality, what's happening that most of the investment was already as a sunk cost in getting machine learning based capability up and running. So a lot what you see right now is a repurposed version of the machine learning use cases into AI use cases, which may not be truly the AI for sure. So from a cost benefit analysis, frankly, we don't see enterprises continuing to be very bullish in next 3 to 4 years because they still need to recover what they're putting into building the data capabilities. But yes, I must just qualify it by saying, with the second part which comes in, I would have said it naturally, that if I were to think today, the landscape of the AI tools only, which will work from, excuse me, design to deployment for any of the use case you may think about. At any given point in time, we are having about 70,000 tools which can help you and make your life very easy. Question is, how do you qualify which tool is best for you? And more open source we are talking about, where the world will move, especially in India, because we still are very unclear about what does privacy really mean for us, is the more it is away from the infosec at a core, the adoption will be easy. An example is you might just buy a customer behavior sensing tool at your kiosk in addition to your point of sale. But you will be very, very cautious of buying a threat intelligence and correlation tool which can help you to predict the next DDoS attack in your firewall, because that's very close to your core. So the more away you are from the core confidential data, the adoption of tools will become very easy. And hence I mentioned, if you recall that slide which couldn't come up unfortunately, some of the topics which will be very beneficial from the SME perspective, front office.
Sure.
So that's what the short and long of it. Frankly.
Fantastic. I think
We're done.
we are through with the time.
Okay.
But thank you so much. Any final note that you would like to have for our tech SMEs, tech-enabled SMEs?
I think, frankly, I can't preach you. You do the most of the heavy lift in the market. I'm just a consultant, and I have a huge respect for what you do. But then this topic is so hazy that nobody has a clear point of view what they really need to do. And I think that's an opportunity as well.
Yeah.
But where we find a place on the table is where we are able to cut the haze and communicate that while you're hearing 10 things, 2 things you must focus upon. For example, in some of my conversations with the private equities, we just talk about growth because that entices them, and we talk about if you handle customer data, if you handle your support data, we can help you to reduce the number of people. Well, that entices a cost conversation. So if you are able to identify from your service portfolio that what does your service portfolio should look like in next 1 year, has it to be AI infused or has it to be AI led? Does it need to be a capability? Does it need to be an asset? And you can translate that back into your balance sheet for next 5 years. I think that's where the game is.
Fantastic.
That's what the summary.
Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful insight with us, Abhinav.
Maulik, thank you very much for that.
And appreciate your being with us today. Pleasure. Thank you, friends.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for guiding us through a thought-provoking discussion on empowering business with the power of AI. May I please request both of you to remain on the dais. I request Kumar Malampalli from Rain Group to please come on stage to present a token of our gratitude to our esteemed speaker. Can we have a round of applause for sir, everyone? I would like to thank Netweb Software for being our session sponsor. Once again, thank you for the insightful session.